All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenyatta Turner. I'm so excited to be here and present this workshop to you where we're going to be talking about the 8 behavioral success factors in life and business. Now, this is going to be a great time for me because I love sharing this information, and I hope that you're going to gain a lot of insight into behavior and why it matters. And this workshop is going to be interactive in that I'm going to ask you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, because as I'm going through some of this information and really explaining to you a little bit about what I mean when I talk about behavioral superpowers and behavioral success factors, I want you to have an opportunity to take some notes about how you feel about this information as it relates specifically to you. Now, as we take a look at this little shot right here, where, this whole presentation and summit, amazing summit, the Global Empowerment Summit, has been about, the young and the wise, and be bold together. And this image right here really shows me in some sort of way and kind of gives an illustration about how behavior matters at any age. It does not matter if you are 12 or if you are 30 or if you are 80. When you go through the process that you might have the opportunity to do with me now, and you think about these things, you'll realize very quickly that age has nothing to do with it. And it has everything to do with how you're behaviorally wired. So that is what we're going to talk about. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story and why I'm so excited to share this information, because there's a quote by Veronica Tegleva that I love. And she says, to know yourself, you must first sacrifice the illusion that you already do. So why is that important? Why is that even something to consider? Well, as you're going into this process and you're listening to the words that I'm speaking and you're thinking about your own behavior and how well you think you already know yourself, I want to remind you that to have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is going to give you the opportunity to take a look at yourself and go, I guess I knew some things about myself. I felt like I was pretty confident in how I moved and how I showed up. But wow, could there be something new I can learn? Are there things about myself I've not yet explored? Now, I can tell you, I'm a grown woman and I learn new things about myself every day. I don't have it all figured out, and to pretend I would be insane. And this process right here is taking me through a level of self-awareness, deep understanding that I didn't even know was possible before I got access to this information. And that is why I'm so excited about it, so excited to share it with you. And when I got introduced to this information, it literally changed everything for me. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself. My name obviously is Kenyatta Turner. I'm the CEO and founder of Freedom Empire Consulting, and my hashtag is hashtag behavior matters. I always say to my clients, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. So think back to even when you were a young child. Were you the young child at 3 and 4 years old that always wanted your toys all lined up in all your dolls or your cars or whatever you were playing with organized? Or are you someone that your parents couldn't even get you to put your toys away, right? Are you someone that always just instantly woke up and fixed your bed just naturally? Or are you someone who your parents had to tell you to go and fix your bed, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. There is no wrong or right way, having the toys organized or not, unless someone tells you that it's wrong, right? But ultimately, it's how you just show up. So if you're someone who is very spontaneous, you've always been spontaneous. You may try to be a little more structured, but that spontaneity core is always still there. So it doesn't really matter if it's life or business or a relationship or a job or a career or just how you're going to clean your house. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I've been on this journey for about 3 years now, teaching behavioral science. I fell in love with this product when I got introduced to it the first time, but I've spent most of my career prior to that running colleges. That's what I did. I spent 20 years running colleges. I was the director of every department in a college, from career services, student services to admissions. Have a strong leadership background in executive leadership. I got 2 degrees myself. And I always found that there was always a process of trying to get to know people in every position that I held, whether I was hiring people, whether I was training, coaching, developing, working with the students, helping them get matched up with the roommates, whatever it was, there was always a process of trying to get to know someone. But everyone always seemed to move the same way. and you would pick up on these things. And it was fascinating to me how people just showed up the same way. And I paid very close attention where I almost felt like I could predict it. I had an instinct for doing that. But then when I got introduced to this tool that I just now put in the chat for those of you who are here to take a look at it, is I want to give you an opportunity to take this exercise that I'm going to be talking about in a moment. We call the process to discover, uncover, and unleash your behavioral superpower. So I'm giving you the access because I love Andrea and everything that she's done. And I want everyone who's taking a look at this right now to have an opportunity to do that. So I created this link. And as I'm looking at it right now, if you type it in, do not put capital GES at the end of that link. It's not going to work. So that is a mistake. Just lowercase, all lowercase GES 2021. And you'll be able to get access to put in your name, email address, and phone number. And then you will get an email that has a link for you to take the 10 to 15 minute exercise so you can determine what your behavioral superpowers are. And you don't even know what those are yet. I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. But I want you to have an opportunity to be able to experience what it is that I'm talking about. And then even as I'm going through the workshop, you may finish the exercise by then and be following right along and know some of the answers to the things that I'm speaking about. But if you're watching this and you do not have access to the link and you haven't taken the exercise, then I want you to take notes and I want you to speculate about how you fit into the things I'm going to speak about as we go forward. So you can reach me. My email's down there. I'm on all the social channels. You can find me at Kenyatta Turner or Freedom Empire Consulting, and so that you can connect with me. And I want you to connect with me because I definitely want to get feedback from you, especially if you take this exercise. I'm going to want to talk to you and feel and understand how you feel about it. So let's dive in. Now, the platform that we use to assess people's behavior was developed over 30 years ago. It is validated in 125 countries and it's in 11 different languages. We know with the research that the data that I'm about to share with you has a 91% predictability over the long term. That means that you won't need to take this exercise again because we know at a rate of about 91% that it predicts how you show up and who you are. So we're not measuring, be very clear here and listen to this. We're not measuring the things that change often with people and humanity. We're measuring how they're naturally wired already. So we're measuring behavior, not personality. Personalities, they can change. Actually, you can get a new one if you want, but when it comes down to who you are at your core, that hardly ever changes. You are who you are. But you can move the needle. So think about that. You can move the needle. We'll speak more about that later, but I want you to understand that. And so out of the 10 behavioral superpowers is what we call them, your behavioral identity, there are 10 different styles. I'm going to talk very briefly about them. And you can see them down here in the slide where it says, let me just make it a little bigger for a second. But it says adapter, community builder, engager, facilitator, initiator, influencer, reflective thinker, relationship builder, strategist, and stylish thinker. Now, my behavioral superpower style, I am an influencer. When I took the test, that's what it came out as. So is my mother, by the way. And Andrea took the exercise and she is a community builder. Okay. So it's important to know that every single person, every human falls under one of those 10 high-level behavioral superpower styles. But because this exercise is so profound, we actually measure over 500 different data points with that one 15-minute exercise. So what I'm sharing with you right now is going to be very high level because we know with the data that there are 1 in 4 trillion different combinations. So when you take your exercise, it's going to come out and show that you are 1 in 4 trillion. Even if you're a community builder like Andrea, you're not alike. You're not exactly alike because even though, your hands may look the same, right? We all have different fingerprints. And so we measure that as well. So let me go through the presentations fairly quickly here or the profiles fairly quickly because we're not going to dig into the profiles today. We're going to dig into the factors today, right? So the profiles, an adapter. The names are exactly as they sound. An adapter is a profile that literally has the capacity to magically adapt and fit into any situation. They are like the chameleon, I say. They can hang around all the other profiles and they will absorb the behaviors of the profiles that are around them, just like a chameleon will pick up the colors, and they will adapt to any situation that they need at any way that they need to, and they're almost magical in how they do that. They fit in where they need to, they assess the situation, figure out what needs to happen, and they fit in as necessary. Hence, the word adapt. Okay. So as I'm going through these as well, part of what I want you to do is, if you don't know your actual behavioral superpower style, I want you to write down the one that sounds most like you. Okay. So do you feel like you are an adapter based on what I just said? Well, that might be your profile. Okay. The next one is the community builder. Now that is Andrea. Now, community builders, exactly what they do. They build community. They have a wide circle of friends and networks. Usually they're extremely nice. They're supportive. They're empathetic. They want to bring people together. And one thing that's really important to community builders as well is cooperation and consensus. When they're making decisions and making plans, ideally, they're interested in finding out how everyone feels about it and bringing everyone together to get everyone on the same page. And then they move that group forward to accomplish things. That's exactly what she did with us. Okay. That's exactly what she did with all of us in a very cool way. That is the community builder. That demeanor that she has, that's natural for community builders. Now, next is the engager. They're right next to the community builder on the wheel. And engagers are phenomenal at engaging. Usually they have excellent communication skills, a wide circle of networks. Usually they're overly excited about everything. They engage. They want to know who's going to be there. Are we having fun? What's happening? And they have, the ability to meet anyone and instantly be friends and be talking with them. They're very vocal in how they communicate and how they want to connect with people. Next is the facilitator. And these are just in alphabetical order. So no other particular order than that. Facilitators. Now my sister is a facilitator, and actually of all the profiles, only 4% of the population fall into the facilitator area. And the facilitators have an uncanny way of setting the agenda, getting things done, setting the tone of what needs to happen, and then getting everyone they facilitate. They get everyone in the right seats at the right time to make something happen. And they do it in such a way that people don't even know that they've been facilitated. They literally, they care about the people and how they feel about what's happening, but they do not sacrifice the results to make sure that it happens. Excuse me. Very specific to a facilitator. The next one is the initiator. We call them the spark. The initiators, literally, that's what they do. They show up and initiate. They take bold, aggressive actions. They want to set the agenda. They want to come in and tell everyone what needs to happen. And then when they leave, they expect everything to have been done because they have already moved on to go and initiate something else. Okay. So they literally will show up, get it done, and they've moved on to something. I have 4 initiators on my team with Dream Smart Academy, which is the company that I'm the behavioral superpowers officer for. We're basically the only Black-owned behavioral science firm that we know of in the world. Okay. And this is what we do. But 4 of them are initiators. So I know how to work with them, and they're right next to me on the wheel. And here's the thing I've learned about initiator. Do not tell them that you need something done and not be sure about it. Because by the time you've already turned around and then turned back and changed your mind, they've already went and done it. Okay. So do not mistake the fact that initiator is going to get it done before you even get the words out of your mouth. Okay. They initiate. Influencer, that is my style. Again, like I mentioned, my mother is as well. It's been very interesting. We've had lots of conversations around this data and looking at our reports. It explains so much about why me and my mother had the challenges we had when we were growing up. Her and I both have had conversations that have put us both in tears when we understood why we were the way we were. I was the child. She was the mom. We both were influencers. And what do influencers do? Well, first off, they're visionaries. They're ringleaders. They want everything to be big and bold. And they have a knack for communicating things in such a way where they can influence people's decisions about things. They can influence how something is going to go by knowing who's in the room and who they need to talk to and who needs to make that happen. That's what they do. I'm not talking about social media influencer. This term was given to this profile over 30 years ago. So I'm not speaking about social media influence, but if you look up the word influence in the dictionary, that's a more clear description. Before they added social media influencer to the dictionary, that's a more clear description of what it is that we do. So me and my mom found each other at odds a lot of times because we were doing this. She was trying to influence me. I was trying to influence her. Now I was the child, so I probably should have just been paying attention and not being insubordinate. But as an influencer, it's very difficult for us to withhold our opinions and not speak our minds. I've always been this way since I was young as 12, or younger. We don't have a problem being in front of the camera, on a microphone, None of that bothers us. Influencers typically have no fear of butterflies when it comes to speaking in front of people or engaging with people in that way. So that's just one quick example of what an influencer is, and you happen to be speaking with one. I see a few people have joined the meeting right now. I'm excited that you are here, and I will try to, or maybe Andrea can drop that link again in the chat because they probably didn't see it when they got here. If you could do that, please, that would be fantastic. And so let me keep going here. Now, we talked about adapters, community builders, engagers, facilitators, initiators, influencers. The last four are reflective thinker and relationship builder. Now, when it comes to reflective thinker, our founder and CEO of Dream Smart Academy, he is a reflective thinker. I spent a lot of time working with him. We probably talk 5 times a day. And reflective thinkers, they don't think like I do. Like they don't show up like an influencer does, because what they do is reflectively think. They're very methodical in how they do things. They typically like being behind the scenes versus in front of the camera. They take their time when they're making their decisions. They're very analytical. They focus on quality. They focus on excellence and perfection. Here's what I know about them. I love working with them because they will pay attention to all the things that I won't. I love it. He's looking at things that I'm not even paying attention to. And, he's going to send the email. It's going to have all the information in it and everything because they love information. I'm going to send 3 bullet points, right? And I don't want to read all the information anyway. So that is behavior, right? It matters, especially when you are working with other people. It's important to understand these differences that affect how you work and move with that person. That is why this information is so important. The self-awareness that you need about yourself, and then to understand how to navigate the differences in the people that you're working with at any level. It doesn't matter the age, any level. You need to understand who you're working with, right? And be able to honor those differences. So the next one is the relationship builder. They're right next to the community builder on the little wheel we have. And they are, everyone I've met has just been a sweetheart. I mean, that's just the easiest way to describe it. They patiently will build relationships. That is their superpower, right? Their behavioral superpower is that they can build relationships with anyone, and they will take the time and they will have the patience to do that. And they always want to be in supportive roles. They're very empathetic. And again, they're relationship builders. The word speaks for itself. The last 2, strategists, exactly what you think they would be. They strategize. They're very analytical. They can be impartial. They're very focused on the goals and the outcomes. And they're going to have a plan already Tetrised out in their brain with a spreadsheet 6 weeks in advance. That's how they think. They cannot help it. I love working with them because, again, they're going to focus on all those minute details that me, as a fast-paced, outgoing influencer, I'm not paying attention to. I'm not even interested. I know I need to be, but that's not my happy place. That's not my zone of genius, right? So we have this information so we can also help people be in their zone of genius, okay? Next, stylish thinker, and the last one. I quite honestly think a stylish thinker is a cross between an engager and a reflective thinker. They always have a wide circle of friends. They love people. They love to communicate. They're very vocal, excellent communication skills, but they're extremely analytical at the same time. I always like to joke and say with the stylish thinkers that you could be at a party with one of them, right? Hanging out party. Maybe you're dancing, Andrea's going to love that. We're dancing. All of a sudden the stylish thinker is going to pull out a report and be like, hey, we need to look at these numbers on this thing. What are we doing? And you're like, wait, are we dancing and partying? Or are we looking at reports? And the stylist thinker is going to be like, we're doing both. Now, someone like myself, I'm like, put that report away. I don't want to see that. But they really have a balance between the two of those things. So I'll put the slide back up here real quick. So these are the 10 behavioral superpower identities. But with each of the identities, everyone has a unique fingerprint that make no two alike. So for instance, me and my mom are influencers, but she's very different than me. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. It has to do with the 8 behavioral factors that I'm going to show you in just a moment. But I wanted you to have a little bit of insight on this high level, so that when you take the exercise, you figure out which one of these 10 you are, but then now you're going to get into the factors where it's going to look a little bit different. So let's go. Let's move this slide over here. Okay. So now I'm going to make this bigger so that you can see this. There are 8 factors with 16 traits that scientifically measure your behavioral superpowers and your kryptonite. So what do I mean by that? Regardless of which profile you are, as an influencer, a strategist, a community builder, any of them, that is your power. that is my power as an influencer. That is who I am. That's why my tagline is coach, influence, and protect. I'm a speaker, a trainer, a workshop facilitator, a teacher. I've always been these things. That is what I do very naturally. And I walk in that power. Andrea, she walks in the power of being the community builder that she is before she even knew that her behavioral superpower was a community builder. She was already doing it. She's already identified where her zone of genius is, and she's learned to walk in that. She can only go up from here. This is the beginning. Once she starts to understand and really absorb that information, if she chooses to really embody it and learn more about the other 40 reports that come out of that 15-minute exercise, she will be unstoppable in her ability to be behaviorally and unapologetically you. That is what we teach and coach people with this information, because we say, this is where you're at. Now decide if you want to move the needle or not, or stay exactly where you are. So as you look at these traits, and we're going to go through each one of them, I want you to pay attention to something very simple here. The different factors: command, people, patience, structure, trust, pioneering, risk, and creative. Each of those means something different, which we're going to get into. But when you look at this continuum and you see that there's a linear line here between each of these factors, whether you're on the right side or you're on the left side. If you're in the mid-range, whereas you see between like 40 and 55, mid-range means fairly balanced. Everyone can understand that. That's easy. It's balanced. So if you're halfway between take charge and cooperative, simply what that would mean is that you can be take charge when you need to be, and you can be cooperative when you need to be, and it won't be a hard flex for you. So what do I mean by flex? Well, that means that if you've got to move out of your natural state, which is 91% predictable, and you've got to move to the other side, and you are a high take charge person, that means it's harder for you to be cooperative. Listen to what I just said. If you have a high score and take charge, that means it's harder for you to be cooperative. So imagine if you're working with someone who is very cooperative. Well, if you're really take charge and they're really cooperative, you guys are probably going to get along just fine in that area, aren't you? Because you're going to want to set the tone and the agenda, and they'll be just fine following along with that. No problems. But that doesn't always happen that way, right? Don't we have people in our lives that maybe are just as take charge as we are? And that is a problem, because someone's going to have to give in that moment. And also there's times when a take charge person needs to step back and allow someone who's less take charge to step forward. This is why behavior matters. This is why 87% of performance issues in life and business are due to behavior. It's because of the differences that people have with these various behaviors and how they do things, and they don't recognize it in the moment, and they don't know how to flex their behavior. Instead, what they do is they take it personal. People take these differences personal, and they think that it has something to do with them. Okay. And it has nothing to do with them. I say it's not personal. It's just science. And once you understand the science of it, then you'll quit being upset when people don't behave how you think they should, right? Or you'll learn to adjust your behavior in the moment for the greater good. So as we go through each of these 8 factors, I want you to be thinking about, where do you think your score is on each of these? Because that's important. As I mentioned earlier, to know yourself, you must first sacrifice the illusion that you already do. And you need to be honest, and you need to be transparent with yourself. Now, when you take the exercise, it's going to tell you what the numbers are, at least your 2 highest talents. You can obviously contact me if you want more coaching on your other profile or your other results, and some coaching on that topic. But you're going to get your 2 highest traits right away when you take the exercise. Okay. So let's dig in. And you guys have probably already figured out I talk fast, so you got to listen fast. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to show you as well. When you're thinking about what your scores are, okay, whether your score is on the right or the left of that continuum, the statistics and the data shows that 2/3 of the world will operate differently from you. 2/3 is going to operate differently from you. So again, think about the conflicts that you may have had in your life. Think about the miscommunications you may have had in your life. Think about the friction that you've had in relationships and you couldn't figure out why, right? Well, 2/3 of the world operates differently from you. So if you don't understand that you're the one who probably has to flex your behavior in the moment to meet somewhere else where they're at, instead, if you're thinking that 2/3 of the world is going to flex to meet you, you're going to be waiting a long time. Okay. A long time. So you need to understand this information and understand how to flex yours as opposed to trying to wait for someone to flex theirs. Okay. That's the key there. Now we'll get into the first trait. The first trait is the command factor. So the command factor indicates a person's desire to control the agenda, their willingness to assert, and their need to make decisions. Okay. Their desire to control the agenda, their willingness to assert, and their need to make decisions. So right now on your piece of paper, I want you to write down if you think that you are someone who is more take charge, or are you more cooperative when it comes to that? Are you someone who always feels like you have to show up, and if there's a party to be planned, you show up and you're like, you know what? I know what needs to happen. Okay, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. I think we should do this. Or do you show up to the meeting and you kind of sit back and you wait and you listen to figure out what everybody else is going to want to do? And then when they come up with what it is, you're like, that sounds good. I'm okay with doing that, right? That's a very clear delineation. Very, very clear. So are you take charge or are you cooperative? And this factor, again, is how a person's desire to control the agenda, their willingness to be assertive, and their desire and need to make decisions. Okay. This is huge. This is how people get things done. And as a result, and it's also how they build relationships. So I want you to write down which one of the sides of the coin do you think you are when it comes to cooperative or take charge. Okay. Oh, and I see Jaga says in the chat, she says she's more collaborate or cooperate. Right. So she already has a sense that she's on that side or the other. Now, here's the beautiful thing about each one of these, regardless of the side that you're on. The higher your score, that is your superpower. Literally, that is your behavioral superpower. The fact, Jaga, that you said that you are more cooperative and you feel that way, that is your superpower, because in the moment, that style of cooperation that you have is exactly what's going to be needed in that moment. And you're going to show up that way anyway. Okay. Because when you take the exercise that you guys are going to have access to take, it measures who you are at your core when you're frustrated, when you're scared, when you're anxious, when you're nervous, when you're under pressure, when you're really happy, all of your heightened levels of emotion. That's what we measure. That's how we can get to the core of who you are, because when you're under pressure, who you are shows up. It shows up even if you don't want it to show up. You might try to control it, but it's going to show up anyway, right? So Cheryl says, yes, I take charge, but appreciate cooperation from others. Well, absolutely. Of course you would. If you were to take charge, of course you would appreciate cooperation, right? Because again, you want to set the tone. And when others help out and are cooperative in that, that's wonderful. But here is where the kryptonite comes in for each one of us, especially if you have a high score in one of these areas. If you're in the middle, then like I said, it's easy for you to flex back and forth. But if you far right or far left, that means it's hard for you to see the perspective of people on the other side. And it's harder for you to flex your behavior to the other side. I know people who have really high take charge scores. My mother's one of them. It's difficult for her to step back and be more cooperative because her take charge score is so high. Doesn't mean she can't, doesn't mean she won't, but it's a biological, physiological challenge for her to, because she's wired against it. She's wired to take charge. So we have to teach people. And what we do is, like, the higher the score, we teach and coach you how to learn to flex that behavior. Because again, being very take charge or being very cooperative is not always the best scenario. It's not. Even with Jaga being extremely cooperative, there's times when she would even need to step forward and be more take charge in a moment. Right? So we teach both sides of that coin, what your behavioral superpowers are and what your kryptonite, because we always say a power overplayed can become a struggle, and a struggle unmanaged can become a weakness. And we don't want your superpowers to become weaknesses. We want you to be in control. That's what we strive for: control of your emotions, control of your behavior, and control over your actions and your thoughts. Nothing else is under your control, but you can control your actions and your thoughts, and you definitely can control your behavior. So that is what we talk about here. So let's go to the next one. Number 2 is the people factor. So the people factor indicates a person's openness and expression their transparency and ease in relating to strangers, okay? And it goes much deeper than that, but that's it at a high level. We have two sides of this coin, reserved and outgoing, okay? Now, my highest score is outgoing. Of all the 8, that's my highest. So this factor I get, right? I don't meet people that are strangers to me. As soon as I meet them, they usually become friends because I'm going to say, hey, what's up? I'm going to talk and I'm lively and I have no problem connecting with people. I have a wide circle of people that I connect with. My challenge is sometimes taking the time to build really deep relationships because I'm out talking to so many people, right? It's hard to really focus on a select few when there are so many. So there's power in that, but there's also a kryptonite in having a high score on the outgoing side. The reserve side, typically they're much more reflective. They kind of prefer being by themselves more often than not. They feel like they need to recharge after they've been around a lot of people. My reflective thinker, business partner in Dream Smart Academy, he's a reflective thinker and he's more reserved than I am. He's very reserved. So we might be on 2 Zoom calls and after the second Zoom call, he's done. He's like, look, I got to go shut it down. He calls it going dark. He's like, I got to go dark. I'm done talking to people. I need to recharge, regroup. And that's how he needs to be away from people to recharge. Me, I've already been, I don't know how many live presentations I've done today, probably 4, and then was on like 2 other Zoom calls outside of that. And I'm like fired up, like ready for the next one. I get energized off of being around people and having conversations and talking. Think about a conference. Back in the day when we used to go to live conferences, right? Go to live conferences. I'm the person who after the main session, when it's time to like break between like lunch or something, I might go back to my hotel room, maybe grab a jacket and put down my bag. And then I'm off to go figure out where we're going for lunch, or where we're going to go out for a drink or whatever we're going to do. Where some people go back to their room and you won't see them again because they're done with being around all the people, right? So that has something to do with the reserve factor versus outgoing. So please write in your notes. Do you feel like you're more reserved when it comes to the people factor, or are you more outgoing? Which is it? Okay. So that is that factor. Let's keep moving because we got several more to go through. Next one is the patience factor. All right. So the patience factor, it measures a person's natural pace, their desire for stability, and their need for harmony. Okay. That's the patience factor. Fast-paced is one side of the continuum. Patient is the other. Now, remember earlier I mentioned that my highest score was in outgoing. My second is fast-paced. So what that means is that I'm not really patient. However, I have people tell me, well, Kenyatta, God, you were so patient with me. Like I appreciated how patient you were with me. That's not because I'm naturally patient. It's because I've learned to be patient. It's because I make a conscious effort to slow it down sometimes and learn to be a more empathetic listener. It's because I've learned that over time, my fast-paced nature in my past has not always served me. Even though it's the way I naturally was, it doesn't always serve me. So I have to consciously work on this exact trait because people who are very fast-paced, we can tend to be very, we're very rational for one. We're very logical, rational. We think we deal with things more from a perspective of logic than we do feelings. And that's not always the case when you're working with someone who needs you to be more thinking about the feeling side, right? The fast-paced is not thinking that way. The patient side is thinking that way because that's how they're naturally wired. So imagine 2 people in a relationship, let's say, or a mom and a child, or a coworker and an employee, and one is very fast-paced and one is very patient. You can already see how there can be a disconnect when how they're communicating and how they're getting things done. We want to make sure that people know which side of the coin they're on and how deep in the side of the coin that they're at, because that, again, is going to cause for more flexing. So the patience factor is huge. And I see Andrea says, I like people, but she likes to be alone too. So she probably, and I haven't looked at her report lately, she probably has a balance between that promoting versus operating, where, she wants to do a little bit of both. But the patience factor, that's a serious one. I mean, how many times have you felt like you might feel impatient? So if you feel like you're someone who finds yourself being impatient, then you might have more of the fast-paced side. Or are you someone who never feels like you're impatient, then you're more on the patient side. So Andrea says she's super patient. Yes, So as you write in your notes, everyone, factor number 3, patience. Are you more fast-paced or are you patient? Okay. Next one. Number 4, the structure factor. So this one, woo, the structure factor indicates a person's need for structure, their concern for details, and their desire to prepare. And you may have already guessed for me, if you were listening to what I said earlier about not wanting to get into all the details, I'm not on the plan side. I'm on the spontaneous side. It's actually my third highest score. Andrea says, yay, here, right? Like, now here's the thing with this factor, this is huge, like my third highest score. So not only am I outgoing, I'm fast paced, and I'm spontaneous. So spontaneous people trust their gut, their instinct. They can stick and move how they need to. They can show up, give them 3 bullet points. They can figure it out. They can talk and think on the spot. They often think as they often speak as they are thinking at the exact same time. They have an uncanny way of being able to do that. And it sometimes drives people who are really planned crazy, because the planned people are like, well, where's your notes? Where's your script? What's the plan? What are we doing? And me, I'm the person like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I just tell me what time to be there. I'm good, and someone else is like, no. Like, we need to plan this out. Like Jeff, my, business partner, he's extremely planned. It's like his second highest score. So he's thinking about things 3 months in advance, and he's got it all written out and all that stuff, where I don't have that at all, which is why we work together so great, because he does him, I do me, right? And it works out just fine. So are you more spontaneous or are you more planned? Are you someone who packs the morning of the trip before you get on a plane like me? Or are you someone like my sister who packs 2 days in advance? And she's got her bags already packed and her clothes laid out. And I'm like, where are you going? Oh, I'm leaving in 2 days to go somewhere. I'm like, in 2 days? Why is your bag already packed? Because that's how she thinks. And she's always been that way. Again, how you do anything is how you do everything. Okay. And that structure factor is huge. I'll walk into her office. There's no papers on the desk. I'm like, you're not even working in here. She's like, yeah, I'm working. I'm like, where's your paper? She goes, Kenyatta, when I'm done with the piece of paper, I put it away. And I'm like, well, that's not the case in my office. You know what I'm saying? So my papers are everywhere, right? So these are the kind of things that we think about with structure versus plan. So tell me which one you think you are. Let's go to the next one, the trust factor. This indicates a person's ability to naturally trust others. Are you skeptical or are you trusting? You know what those 2 words mean. I don't have to go in depth and explain them, but this is a huge fact. All of them are huge, because I'm sure that you guys can already see how critical it is to have an understanding of this information, not only about yourself, but of the people you're dealing with. Because you already know, each one of you listening to this, you are smart enough to figure out that what I'm talking about here has probably been the reason why certain situations in your life went the way they did. When you're dealing with certain people, you're probably thinking of people right now going, man, they're probably really skeptical, or they're probably really trusting, or that's why when we go plan a trip, whoever I'm going with wants to know where we're going, when we're going to get there, what we're going to eat, what hotel we're staying at, and they have to have the trip planned out in advance. That's a structure factor. Versus someone who says, let's just get in the car and go, right? How many families have those conversations? Someone wants to go on a road trip and someone has to plan it out, and someone else just says, can't we just get in the car and go? And you guys are having an argument about, well, why can't you just get in the car and go? And the other person saying, well, why do you have to plan everything out? We think it's personal and it's not. And we try to get the other person to behave like us. And we think something's wrong with them because they won't, or they won't do it for us. I need you to get that idea out of your head right now. I'm sure you can see now, hopefully you can see now that it has nothing to do with you. So when you think about trust versus skeptical, people who are highly skeptical, they're very questioning. That's how they learn. They ask questions constantly to understand what's happening. And they're oftentimes very doubtful. So they are skeptical. So they have to be almost proven wrong or proven right, because already they have their eyebrow raised, like this guy in this picture, like, I don't know about that. So they're going to come at the situation not naturally trusting. But then the people who have a high trusting score are going to automatically trust. And as you can see, the higher the score, there could be powers in both those sides, right? There's power comes with being able to naturally trust people, but there's also power in actually being very questioning and checking what you, or inspecting what you expect too. Asking more questions. So when I coach people who are highly trusting, I help teach them how to ask better questions. I help teach them how to inspect what they expect. And when I work with people who are really trusting or really skeptical, I have to work really hard with them actually to help teach them how to just be more trusting and what to look for in order that could get them to the factor of trust faster. But also too, that skepticism that they have, how they question people could actually be intimidating. Some people feel like they're being standoffish in that, right? Whereas someone who's really trusting might be really loving and feeling like they're acting with their emotions. Can you see the differences here? Can you see how behavior matters in every interaction that you have? It's already there. It's already happening. The question is are you recognizing it? And then what are you doing to adjust your behavior if you feel like you're on one of these sides or the other and working with someone who's on the opposite? Okay. Now, the sixth factor is the pioneer factor. Now, these next three factors I'm getting into, well, the first three factors have a lot to do with relationships and getting results. These next three factors have to do with career and business decisions and how a person sets goals and how they go about accomplishing the goal. So this is business related, career, business, and how they set goals. The pioneer factor indicates a person's drive to set ambitious goals and to pursue them. We measure whether someone is on the content side or pioneering side. So what is the difference between those? Well, I'll start with the pioneer. Pioneer, typically they are trailblazers, visionaries. They will climb to the top of the mountain and burn all the bridges to get there. And as soon as they reach that pinnacle, they're looking for the next one. Okay, they're driven, they're competitive. They want to make things happen and they will stop at nothing to get it done. Their kryptonite is sometimes they might not realize that they don't have the resources to make it happen, but that's not going to stop them because they're driven. Content side is not that. They are more focused on balance. They're more focused on harmony and peace. Doesn't mean they don't set goals, but usually they're not competitive at all. And they're not going to burn any bridges to get anywhere. And when they reach the pinnacle, they might realize that the pinnacle is pretty cool. I'm cool here, right? They're more content and satisfied. Doesn't mean they settle. It just means they're more content and satisfied. Their leadership style is one of stability, where a leadership style of pioneer is one of drive. Okay. So again, this is business decisions, career decisions, and how you go about accomplishing goals and how you go about setting goals. So you can already see how, again, two people who are on the opposite side of this coin are going to be speaking different languages. Okay. So write down in your notes, are you more the pioneer or are you more content? Number 7, and we're almost done here, is the risk factor. The risk factor, right? I love this lady walking here on this tightrope. Risk factor, right? Cautious versus risk taking. This indicates a person's willingness to take risks and their ability to tolerate the consequences. Okay. Their ability to take risks and tolerate the consequences. So this is huge. Now, this is the person who is going to go jump off a cliff and not even look over the edge versus the person who's not even going to get anywhere near the cliff. Think about two people in business together and they're trying to make decisions for the business. And one is on the cautious side and one is on the risky side. Can you imagine the kind of conflict that could happen in that relationship? One person wants to take the business to one place and is willing to spend the money and do the thing and not have everything put in place, but they figure they can make it work and they're willing and they're able to tolerate the consequences of the loss. But the cautious person is saying, "Oh, no. We are not going to spend that money. We are not going to do that. We need data. We need proof. We need this." No, the cautious person may miss out an opportunity. The high risky person may lose things due to the risk factor. Okay. Both of them have power. Both of them are necessary. But again, a power overplayed can become a struggle and then a weakness if it's not managed. So again, are you more risky or are you more cautious? I already know my score. I'm on the risky score. I have an extremely high daring score. I will jump right off the cliff. I know that. And it's gotten me into trouble plenty of times because I'm compelled to jump off the cliff. Okay. So I need someone who's more cautious to balance me out. Right. So that is the 7th factor. And then the final 8th factor, creative factor. This factor indicates a person's capacity to be original, creative, and work with new ideas. One side is anchored. The other side is creative. Okay. People who are anchored, they like to stick to tried and true methods. If you're planning an event or you're working on a project or you have to come up with a sales pitch, whatever, They typically want to know how it was done before, and they want to figure out how it can be adjusted based on what was already done. They oftentimes, they will think inside of a box. They're very comfortable thinking inside of a box. On the creative side, there is no box. There's like disparate dots that maybe they might connect if they feel like it. Okay. The creative style, they will always be just coming up with new ideas. And people want to hang out with them because of that, because they're usually fun. They're always got new things going on. But again, everyone has a kryptonite, because with the creative, sometimes you need to stick to a proven method and not spend time, reinventing the wheel, right? Where the anchored person is definitely not going to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes they need to be coaxed into being more creative and being more open to ideas. Okay. So those are the 8 factors. Now, as we wrap up here in just a moment, I want you to, again, I'm going to put them up here again. And for as far as your workshopping, I want you to be writing down, if you haven't already, of the 8 factors, which side of the coin are you on? For the command factor, are you more cooperative or take charge? For the people factor, are you more reserved or outgoing? Patient factor, are you fast-paced or patient? Structure, are you spontaneous or planned? Trust, are you skeptical or trusting? Pioneer, are you more content or are you pioneering? And then risk, are you more cautious or risking? And creative, are you more anchored or are you more creative? So again, and thank you for putting that in the chat again, Andrea. As we, wrap up here, I wanted to remind you all that when you take this exercise, try to be in a, quiet place if you can with minimal distractions. It should only take you about 15 minutes. If it's taking you longer than that, then you're taking too long. Okay. You're thinking through it too much. You need to just trust your instinct, trust your gut, and choose the answers that initially make the most sense to you as soon as you see them. You can't gamify the system. You can't try to elicit the outcome by how you answer the questions. There is no right or wrong answers. I know people tell me that they try to be right when they answer it. There's no reason for that. Because it's going to show you who you are already at your core. When you take it, as soon as you're done, there'll be a little video that'll pop up that'll talk to you about your profile, real short, and you'll have a report that'll show you what your behavioral identity is, what your top 2 talents are, and then it's got 5 radio buttons on there that are going to give you some high level information about how all these factors come together. And we kind of have this little measurement that you'll be able to see. If you reach out to me, and my information will be in the email that you get, you can contact me. You can schedule a 15-minute chat, and I'll give you a little bit of insight into your profile. That is my gift to you as well. I'm not charging you for that, but you can have that conversation so you know at least what you're dealing with the report. And then ultimately, you can reach me by going to my email address. You can email me. You can connect with me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, or I even have a Twitter account. And I have a YouTube. Follow my YouTube channel. You can look up Freedom Empire Consulting or Kenyatta Turner at, Kenyatta Turner. And so we were just talking about the 10 behavioral superpower identities. But even if you, let's say, are an influencer like me, your top 2 traits might be different than mine, because again, our hands may look the same, but our fingerprints are always unique to us. So it's just as important to know your behavioral identity, but it's equally important to understand where you fall on the factors, where you are on those continuum, because again, the higher the score, the harder it is to swing the needle to the other side. And how you do anything is how you do everything. I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer. That's how I show up all the time, unless I consciously slow it down, be more reserved, and be more patient, not because I'm wired to, but because I understand that I can flex my behavior in the moment. And the last thing I'll mention before I open it up for a question or two, if anyone has any, is that as a leader, which all of you are, regardless of your age, I'm sure you can already see that if you took this when you were 12 years old, because a 12-year-old can take this exercise, it is accurate at 12 as it is at 92. That's how we bridge the generation gap, is we realize that how we do anything is how we do everything at any age. And we use this tool for schools, enterprise level solutions, family coaching, one-on-one coaching. This is the framework. This is step number 1, is to know yourself. You must first sacrifice the illusion that you already do. And remember, #behavior matters. I'm Kenyatta Turner with Freedom Empire Consulting, where I coach, influence, and protect. And I was honored to spend this time with you at this workshop. Thank you so much, Andrea. And if anyone has any questions, I'm going to look in the chat just to see. I see
Yes,
Jaga
I'm
says,
stretching a little bit the workshop, so now I will stop the live stream. Thank you very much for all of those who are watching this right now or on replay. Please don't forget, you can reach out to Kenyatta. She already shared where. You can rewatch this video and digest it a little bit, go slower, you know, as she said. I'm speaking fast, you'll listen fast, but you can also go back and digest it. And I will stop the live stream right now so that we can have a little conversation